Hi, friend.
Hi, friend. Are you ready?
Ready for what?
To level up.
Okay, girl, let's get started. Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Level Up with Raman and Alysha.
Welcome to another episode of our Girl Boss Month.
Yay!
So if you've been tuning into our podcast, we have dedicated the month of April to girl bosses, and we are having guest women on our podcast, which will share their stories and hopefully, give you some insight as well. So on today's episode, we have my very long friend, Anisa Dattu.
Yay!
Hi, Anisa.
Hi, guys. Hi. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on our podcast.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually very excited to have you, Anisa, because I've heard so much about your journey through life from Raman since the day I met her. You're one friend she's always advocated about you. So I'm excited to hear now your story. So I'm really glad you're on our episode.
This is true. I'm always saying good things about Anisa. I'm always like, she's just, and everyone will have to hear about the good and the bad part of everything as well.
Good vibes out there.
So Anisa, why don't you tell us something about yourself?
So my name is Anisa Dattu. I am a divorce lawyer. I've lived in 2 different countries. I am an active volunteer. I'm a newly married wife. I'm a very loving aunt, a very devoted daughter. I have an active social life. I love to cook, love to travel, love to just binge watch television and YouTube videos.
That was an amazing intro.
Yeah, I gotta say one of our best.
I know, that was amazing. And you know what? Like, Anisa does so many things, and I feel like that's what makes you a well-rounded person. But just kind of jumping right into it. So Anisa and I, just to kind of give you guys a little backstory, we've been friends since grade 5, and we hated each other, but then loved each other. And we
That's
were
how all great friendships start.
I know, right? We were like, I hate you. Anisa used to bully me.
Oh, yeah. You do not see the type. What? I would have figured it was the other way around.
Call it the Stockholm syndrome. I fell in love with her. But yeah, so we have been friends since grade 5, and we lived 5-minute walk away from each other. So we kind of we did everything together from youth, and then we kind of we went to school together, and then we even went to York together.
Oh, wow.
And then the biggest turning point in our friendship, and mainly in Anisa's life, I'm just making it about me, was when she decided to move to England.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what made you move to England, Anisa?
Oh, where do I begin, guys? So it's, growing up and being a child of immigrant parents, and especially in a South Asian household, you're always kind of raised with become an engineer, become a lawyer, there's a lot of pressure. And I'm the youngest of 3 children, and neither of them went to university. And so a big part was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life that can give me a good career and also make my parents really proud and, kind of fill out their Canadian dream. And I want to say I was fortunate, but it wasn't necessarily being fortunate. It was my sister went through a divorce when I was in high school. And, one thing that I realized and learned from that was that it took a whole village to kind of manage that whole situation. And there weren't a lot of strong female lawyers of a South Asian or Indian African background, because that's my background. And a lot of people didn't understand our cultures and our rituals, and even certain things like how the Indian bride gets gold at the wedding, so much gold, and that belongs to her. And I just felt like, there wasn't enough exposure and representation. And so that really kind of sparked my interest in law, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't convinced. So I ended up thinking, okay, I had a really big interest in science. So I started doing psychology at York University. And it was a BA program, actually. And I did about a year and a half of that, or a year and a half of credits. And, I didn't really enjoy it. I always just felt like I wanted to just experience what law school was like. I wanted to get a jump start. I didn't really want to stay in school for so many years. So I always just thought of trying to, how do I fast track my life? How do I just jump through it? Which I feel like is me for everything. Like when I open something, I don't really read the instructions. I'm just like, all right, let's put it together. Like I'll just jump to the end. And
I feel like most of us are like
Yeah.
that, but then, you know, we still get trapped into the long way of doing things.
We do sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
And this was kind of, you know, I contemplated it for so many years because I always heard of you know, you can go to England and you can do things a little faster. And I'd spoken to so many people before I actually entered university in Ontario. I had spoken to so many people who had gone to England for law school, but all of them had recommended going with an undergrad. So I thought, okay, you know what, I'll listen to that. And in 2008, they actually changed the laws where you could go without an undergraduate degree. So 2009, I jumped on a plane and I was like, I'm out, let's go. Worst comes to worst, I come back and I have a bachelor's degree in law and I can do law school here. I thought I'm not really losing much. It's a heck of an experience. And
Yeah.
it was risky. And I feel like, you know, it was a little ballsy for me to do so because it all happened so quickly. And I think Raman remembers.
And so young. So young.
How old were you
She
when
was
you
like
went?
18.
I was 18.
Wow.
I was 18.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I just 18.
how long did you stay in England for?
I was there for only 3 years. So I actually came back at 21.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And
Okay.
she finished law school.
That's
At 21.
amazing. You have to be like one of the youngest lawyers I know. Okay, that's phenomenal. So like when you were in England, did part of you want to live in England, or did you want to come back because your family was here?
Well, I always had an attachment to England because my sister lived there for a period of time. I have a bunch of family on both my mom and my dad's side
A
who
lot.
live around England.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot of family. So it was kind of, if I had to think of a second home would be England. Like that would be, I guess, my motherland compared to my actual motherland.
Wow.
So lots of support. And that's actually what inspired me to choose a really good university that was actually in the northeast of England, as opposed to London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, all the kind of central South Asian cities. And and it was a predominantly British city right under Scotland. And it was a phenomenal experience. And I learned so much. I felt like I grew so much as a person. I went in as an 18-year-old and I came out as a 21-year-old, kind of just having so much experience under my belt. It was a great experience.
It sounds very cool.
And you know what? Anisa and I, like, we were very fortunate to, like, kind of rely on our parents for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was like we always had our parents, and now it was like she was going out there doing everything on her own. And I do feel like you grew so much as a person. And, you know, the independency, especially, I think I remember when you came back from law school and had to move in back with your parents, it was like, it was so different because you were just so used to doing things your way yourself and having that independence. So it was like not just a transition to leave, but then it's like a transition to come back.
I can definitely see where that would happen for sure. And it's like you became, like you said, you went kind of like a young adult baby going into a new world and then came back as a young adult, right? And then becoming independent, like Raman said. So that's huge and a huge accomplishment because I feel like a lot of people would be scared to do that. You know, I'm like giving up that security of being at home, my safety net. And so kudos to you for doing that. So then you came back and then did you write your bar exam or how did it work when you came back?
Okay, so remember how I said I kind of just jumped into things? So in as much as I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, and I really had to force myself to grow in 3 years. And I think that those were kind of the prime ages where everyone is partying and making mistakes and stuff like that. And here I am trying to fast track. There was a lot that I wish I had kind of known when I came back, and particularly surrounding a little bit more of networking, some more of what exams to write, how to write them. I didn't feel like I had as much of a support system. So I had to create it. I had to put myself out there. I had to apply for jobs. I had to cold call lawyers, message people on LinkedIn, email them. So I actually came back and I actually traveled for a bit. I should say, I forgot about that. I went to the Dominican Republic with my friends. I did my journey for Hajj, the Muslim journey of Hajj with my parents, which I was super fortunate to do. So I traveled for a really long time. time. And then I came back and I just felt really rejuvenated. And after that, it was, all right, get back into things. And so I applied around to different firms because I knew getting experience, nowadays we're in the world where you need experience for even entry-level positions. So I thought, okay, I need to get something under my belt. And I needed to register for my exams and find out kind of what the next year, 1 to 2 years is going to look like. So I had to do conversion exams, which I knew I was supposed to do. I had to do 7 of them. And they're more independent learning. Some people have a choice. You can either go back to school. York Osgoode Hall actually has a really good program if you want to do your conversion through there. But I thought, I've already been in school for 3 years. I really wasn't trying to go back to it. So I ended up self-studying for these 7 exams. And, I ended up failing 2 of them actually, and I had to rewrite them. And I was working at the same time. And I was fortunate to get an internship position with a really prominent boutique law firm in Toronto for immigration law. And so I did that, and then I had to do a 10-month, what we call an articling period, which is kind of a training period. So you're a junior lawyer just before you get called to the bar. And then I wrote my bar and then got called to the bar. I got called to the bar at 25. So it actually I took my time doing it. And partly it was because I really kind of emphasized the networking. I emphasized, finding kind of what my niche was, what I really wanted to do family law. I ended up getting a position in immigration law. So I found a lawyer who I just admired so much, and I chased her, and I still work with her, and I manage her offices now. And, I was really fortunate that she gave me the independence and the training that I needed to be able to kind of be afloat. I was a first-year associate having third-year associate experience. And I was super fortunate to be able to do that.
That's amazing.
I want to say one thing that I learned from Anisa, and I applied it to myself, and I always give other people the same advice now, is when Anisa came back and she mentioned she was looking for a job, and at that point, you needed experience even at an entry-level job. So Anisa took this unpaid internship, went every day to downtown, worked her butt off, still worked regular hours. And you know what? I don't know after how long, Anisa, but then they hired her full-time there.
That's amazing.
So and she was obviously back, I think I was still in school. I was still in my undergrad program. Anisa was already back from her law school. But when I finished school, I kind of had that same mentality. I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter whether I get a paid job or an unpaid job. And I took that same principle. I was offered an unpaid internship, which, led after 4 weeks, led to a full-time job, led to my next job and my next job and next job and where I am today. So I always give that advice to everybody now as well. I'm like, if you don't have a job, it doesn't harm you to go get experience if you're not working anyways, right? So I mean, hard times right now, but good long-term advice.
I agree with that. I think that's really true, to the point that the experience trumps everything, and that's where you can network and build your network and meet people. So definitely I agree with you in the beginning stages to do that.
And Anisa, you mentioned that now you are with this colleague as well, and now you're managing her office. I know one thing for sure about Anisa. First of all, if you have not heard our podcast on how to say no, I told Anisa that I feel like she's really good at saying no, but it's just because she's so busy. And she really does have to prioritize what she can do and can't do. But for most people, it's hard. But I feel like you've become really good at that, knowing your priorities. But I could be wrong, because I know sometimes you go crazy in your head as well. But your life is crazy. Your work hours are crazy. Now you're married. How the hell do you do you?
Oh man, I'm still trying to figure that out. So I guess you'll have to have me on your podcast again when I do. But in the interim, I mean, it's not easy, and I don't think anyone's life is particularly easy. And I feel like we all have our own challenges, and we all have a capacity of how much we can handle. And I think when I started hitting my capacity, because for so long, I couldn't say no. And if someone wanted my help, I would say, okay, yeah. Or, you know what, I have this going on because I have a really active social life. I have a really active family life, and a really demanding career. So I was like, I felt like I was just stretched in so many positions. And this is before I met my husband and things like that. I was always just so busy. And my weekends, I just felt like I was one of those in my early 20s. I was like, oh, how does your January look? How does your February look? And people would just look at me like, that's a little pretentious, but it was just part of my life. It was what I was used to. But I think part of it was I couldn't say no. So if someone said, oh, hey, we're hanging out here, or there's this party, or there's this baby shower, or my wedding, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to try to do it all. And I would end up making what I called special appearances everywhere.
I remember that logo. Yeah, like, I'm just gonna make a special appearance.
Just to kind of show face. And it was exhausting. It was really stressful. It was just a lot to keep up with. And so I had to kind of force myself to learn when to say no. And I think a part of it was I wasn't respecting myself. And this was only kind of recently, guys. Like, this wasn't anything kind of prior to that. A lot of it was around when I was writing my bar exam. And I think that's when I started saying no, because I had failed it the first time. And again, that was kind of my whole mentality of trying to reach the end, without kind of reading the instructions. And so I'd gone into my bar exam. I could have been more prepared the first time I wrote it. I was a little overconfident, and, I really learned from my mistakes. So the second time I wrote it, I thought, okay, you know what, this is it. You can write it 3 times, but I don't want to write it. I don't want to do it on my 3rd time. I don't want to do this ever again. So I thought, I got to get it done now. And that was really hard, because I was still working in a firm. I dedicated my evenings and my weekends, and I really had to force myself to stick to a schedule that was all about me. I had to say no to my friends. I had to say no to my family. My brother had just had a baby. I didn't see my nephew. I didn't see him grow for about 3 months. They would always be over, and I didn't get to really kind of experience that. But I thought, this is just temporary. And there's success in the future if I stick to this. And so that's kind of how it started. And it was all baby steps. And then as I got older, and as I started prioritizing myself, and just kind of just realizing that you can't do it all. That's when I kind of just learned when to say no. And I volunteer a lot, and I've always been an active volunteer. And at one point I was volunteering for 3 different charities. Now I only volunteer for 2. And with one of them, I actually reduced how many hours I volunteer.
I mean, that's
good,
kind
but yeah, no, you gotta be.
But I do
healthy in order to.
She would literally not even be able to like chill, because you'd be like, you have, and I get it, like your commitment to the committees, like the charities and everything are so strong. Like, you're such a active person involved as well, that like I know they come to you. You'll be like, they've asked me to like help further and contribute further, and you just don't have time for that.
Yeah, I had 2 charities. Actually, one of them I didn't really volunteer for, but I was just, I used to kind of just liaise with. I had 2 charities ask me to be on their board of directors. And I thought, what an honor, just really what an honor, what great experience. I get to meet and work with so many different kinds of individuals of so many different backgrounds, for such a good cause. None of it was paid. And it killed me to say no. And it killed me to say, I actually can't do that. And so, but part of it, I strongly believe charity starts at home. And if I was to just keep dedicating my time, and I know that there are a lot of people out there, and I admire that, but I'm not someone, I had to realize the hard way that I'm not someone who can last on, 5-6 hours of sleep. I'm not someone who enjoyed not being home, and who enjoyed not like eating out all the time. My health was suffering. So I really had to kind of make that decision, not only for my physical health, but for my mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're kind of like reducing everything, but now you're married. So now you have your crazy busy, because your work schedule is still busy. So you started off in immigration law, and now you kind of went into divorce law. And I do have like a question for you about like being a divorce lawyer, because you're getting like, you're kind of just hearing about marriages breaking every day.
Yeah, that's got to be hard, for sure.
And like being a newly wedded wife, like, does that impact you? Is
it impacting your honeymoon phase?
It sort of does, definitely. I mean, I learn a lot, and I feel like everything I do, I learn a lot, and I work with so many different individuals. And I have clients who, they have some really hard stories sometimes to hear. And one of the charities I work for, I actually deal with abused women, and I give summary legal advice to them. And so, I've heard just so many devastating things. If there are some things that I can say, I've learned how to manage finances. I've learned how to hide affairs. I've learned how sometimes not to get caught. How to
Oh my God.
do certain things, like how to sway your children. Like I've learned all of that, and I have to teach myself as well and be conscious of the fact that there's a way to conduct yourself and there's a way not to conduct yourself. And I think it kind of just really made me realize the reality of life, and that is that divorce is real, separation is real, child abuse is real. It's a big factor, and domestic violence still exists. And I think right now it's actually more prevalent than ever. And what a lot of people don't realize with the pandemic is that there's a stay-at-home order in Ontario right now. A lot of victims, and I want to say a lot of abused women, but it's men as well.
Yeah.
But they're forced to quarantine with their abuser right now. So I had to give a lot of advice to a lot of women. Watch the jewelry you wear. Don't wear neck scarves. Things like that can be used to strangle you. Know where all the sharp objects are. If there's a gun in the house, make sure that it's in that safe, or it's in that cupboard, or wherever you have it. You should have it locked up. Things like that, like find a safe zone. Make sure people know where you are. Turn on your Google tracking so that people know where you are. Have a friend who's outside the house who can check up on you. Things like that. There was a lot that kind of had to go into it. But specifically to my marriage, I mean, I think I got married at the age of 29, and I think being a divorce lawyer made me kind of take that step. So I was with my partner for about 3.5 years before we got married, for so many reasons, because partly he wasn't, we were in a long distance relationship for a bit, but I think it was a good age because it really kind of required us both to grow up, to kind of realize, who we are before we can commit to ourselves to become a little bit more independent, know what we want out of life. Especially for me, I needed time to reorganize so I can make my marriage a priority, because one thing I learned being a divorce lawyer is that a lot of these divorces happen because people don't have the time for their significant other. They're either committing themselves to their work, they're committing themselves to other things. And one thing that I learned from my career and from my mother is charity starts at home. I think a lot of us can agree that our mothers have sacrificed their whole lives to their children, to their husbands. And that's one thing that I think we can learn a lot from, but modify it in a way where we still respect ourselves, and we can still take care of ourselves physically and mentally. And so that's a really big inspiration. But, I talk with my partner all the time, divorce is real. Talking about our prenup it wasn't an awkward conversation. It was a reality. Even just certain things we have very, very, and I'm fortunate that my partner understands I'm a divorce lawyer and I'm very passionate about this. And he's very mature in so many ways. But that we, it's something to look out for. So I can talk to him candidly, and we can actually have candid conversations about kind of challenges that we have, or difficulties. And kind of working a lot of hours and volunteering time was a big one. So I knew I had to kind of reduce that to focus on my marriage. But Alysha, back to your question, the honeymoon period was great, and I think we're still in it.
You better still be in your honeymoon period.
It's only been 6 months.
I gotta say, Anisa, to what you're saying, I feel like there's so much truth to it. And I feel like we don't like to go into a marriage with the notion of talking about divorce, but the reality is there is divorce. And, kudos to you for having that talk. Because I feel like, because Raman and I are also in the wedding industry.
Yeah. But nobody talks about divorce.
No one does.
And it's like,
they're spending all this money.
We want to be like, maybe we'll work with you again, but like with our industry, because it's a wedding, it's like we hope to never work with you again, right?
But reality is, and especially in the South Asian community, divorce is not talked about. But let's talk about it more, because there are situations where you do need to get out of it if you're being abused, or it's just not right for you, or you were forced into a relationship by your parents, or whatever the reason may be. But at the same time, I feel like it's very important as women out there to know what they should know. Like,
yeah, I
you
think
know,
you gave like some amazing
definitely.
advice, right?
And
Where it's like, if and I did not think about this at all, that like victims have to live with their abusers during
that's
this
a huge
time,
thing
and
right
that is a
now.
huge thing, because there's maybe like that time to go out to work, or when that time they get to leave the house and stuff like that was their time kind of away, or them trying to free themselves away. But
And
that's actually a really scary thought. Like now
it's
I'm
super
thinking
scary.
about it more and more, and it's a really scary thought. And like you're an amazing person for like, being an advocate for women,
Yes.
though, like being being a divorce lawyer, and also like kind of not, it takes, I feel like, a very emotionally stable person, right, to like hear that stuff, but also to think logically and be like, well, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
I do have a follow-up question, because you did say like, you don't want to say like women because some victims are men. So in your like work experience, I'm just curious, like what's the ratio between women and men you feel who are like the victims?
I don't know if I can put a number on it, but I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to say most of my clients are male,
Oh,
or they identify as male. Yeah. So
interesting.
it's interesting. A lot of the pro bono stuff I do is for women. I think it's just specifically around that charity. I have a lot of female clients, but I think I have more male clients.
Okay.
Um, but I see a lot of men also coming to me with stories of domestic violence. And we're a little bit more mature now to understand that it's real. But back in the day, it wasn't common for a man to say I'm being abused by my wife and things like that.
Yeah.
Although kind of the story and the narrative is more, I want to say, just in life, it seems a little bit more believable for a female to say she's
Yeah.
being abused. But, I've seen a lot of women being arrested for abuse against their partner, abuse against their husband or their spouse, and you know assault with a weapon. And it could be that they're throwing a remote
Oh,
at their husband, and the husband called the police and the woman got arrested, and things like that. And it's real. And so things like that, I'm kind of cautious about, even just joking around and kind of like hitting my husband and things like that, just out of just out of the fun. I realize it's something I do, but I'm more cautious about that,
yeah.
because I have men to complain to me that, oh, she's always hitting me, she's laughing, she's hitting me, she's crying, she's hitting me, or she'll shove me, things like that. And I have to be conscious of, when I kind of do that, I want to say physical altercation. It sounds a lot serious than it is, because I know my husband knows right now it's just kind of fun and games and things like that. But one day, it could be seen seriouser when he's reflecting back on it. He'll see things like that. So there's a lot to kind of be cognizant of.
That's absolutely like such good advice, because I don't think if I like heard you say it, I wouldn't be aware of it either.
Yeah.
And I feel like you are aware of it because of your profession, but most women would not be aware of that and would just take it as a joke. But yeah, it might be something to like reflect on at a later time, right? I would love to like find out like if you do have any recommendations for like these women, where they can reach out to our helpline that we can leave like in our link below.
Yeah.
So if anybody does want to kind of like have that information, it's kind of on hand. Kind of like going to like your crazy life and doing all this, I know that you are somebody who is like open to getting help. And maybe it's because of your profession, because you see so many people come to help. I don't know what it is, but like from the moment I've known you, like, not like right from the beginning, but like we've had times where, we were like, okay, we do need counseling, we do need help and stuff like that. So I know you're a person who's really open about that. So that's kind of how you deal with stress as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. I'm definitely very open, because I think, because I had an interest in psychology, and growing up, I think I saw a lot of mental health. A lot of individuals around me have mental health issues, whether it was high anxiety, depression, even OCD, things like that. And I always was just so curious about it, and I never kind of realized that one day I would be seeking help for myself. But it wasn't actually hard for me to kind of say I need help, and I actually can't function, because I felt off. I felt like life was too much to handle, and instead of resulting to other things that some people might find relief in, like drugs and alcohol, or kind of inflicting pain against yourself, things like that, I realized I was seeking attention from my friends, from my family, from the public. I was trying to seek attention. I thought, okay, if I can't validate myself, there's something wrong. And so I used a lot of resources that were around me. And one of the first times I went for counseling was at York University, because I was a student. It was free to me. And I'd known about that because I actually had attended a meditation class. I love yoga. I love meditation. I love doing things like that. So I was in a meditation class facilitated through the university, and a lot of individuals over there, it was kind of a group session where we were able to kind of express our feelings in a really neutral zone, which I loved. But a lot of the individuals there had told me about the free counseling service that's available. So, I kind of went for that, and I found a lot of relief in it. And I actually realized that what I thought was bothering me so much wasn't.
Yeah.
And at that time I was a student, and the pressure was, well, why can't I be extremely studious? Why can't, as soon as I'm done lectures, why can't I just go to the library and just plug away for 3-4 hours like I see other people do? Or why can't I study super hard and just always, why am I getting distracted? And I used to call it a nerd. Like, why can't I be a nerd? And I remember telling this counselor, why can't I do this? And, something's wrong with me. And she's like, no, she's like, but that might just not be you. She's like, how can we make it your style? And I thought that, there was some other kind of challenges that I had going on around me that I would really want to focus on. But it was a really good way of pinpointing what was really bothering me. And I thought that was just phenomenal. And it wasn't that many sessions. I think it was 6 or 8 sessions once a week, if I'm not mistaken, or once every 2 weeks, for half an hour, an hour. So it was really great. I think I'm a strong believer in just talking to people. It really just helps, and talking to people, who are ready to listen. And it wasn't about, sometimes I realized that I don't necessarily want to talk to people for their response or for their advice. I just want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so I actually, when people come to me, and being a divorce lawyer, a lot of my clients kind of use us as a crutch to share their feelings or their emotions, or we're kind of pseudo therapists in that sense. And although we're a lot more expensive than any regular therapist, so don't use your divorce lawyer as a therapist. It's not worth it. But we have to listen to a lot of non-legal issues. And a lot of the times I've realized my clients aren't talking to me for advice, because they know I can't advise them on these things. They're not legal issues, but human to human, they're just trying to pour their heart out. So I did counseling when I was in my undergrad. When I went to England, I did counseling there. Again, I took advantage of, let's just say I've never paid for counseling. Okay, guys.
A lot of people are not aware though of the free services that you have. So
even within the hospitals and through your own work providers.
Workplaces, and people I feel like are so scared of it, but it's like, it's anonymous. Like nobody has to know about it except you.
It's just something you need to do for you, between you and that counselor.
Yeah.
Basically, I did it again through my university, through my law school in England. I went for sessions there. And then when the going got tough, I believe it was my first or second year as practicing as a lawyer, I took advantage of the Law Society counseling service, which is a lot more of a kind of reduced counseling service that they offer, but it's still there, and it's something that should be, we all live very stressful lives, especially right now in the pandemic. Mental health, I think, it's at its strongest, and being kind of in having my background of being a South Asian woman, we're not really encouraged to speak out about these things. I realized that growing up, it wasn't something, like, what is depression? What is this? It's a Canadian phenomenon. It's not something that we are familiar with. But now more and more I'm realizing there's so much to it. And I think ignoring it caused a lot of issues. And so I'm a strong advocate, and I tell all my clients, my friends, my family, talk to someone about it. I'm here if you need, but talk to someone you don't know, because you never know where it'll take you.
I agree with you. I say that to a lot of people too. I think it's easier to talk to someone you don't know and to really be more honest than to the people we do know in our daily lives, because they're more our daily life people are gonna be a little more delicate and fragile with us,
Or they might
as
have an opinion.
that too. And then as opposed to someone who's getting paid to do this or isn't, but is more, within the know of how to guide you better and make the best decision for you. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah. And York, I remember Anisa's first session after she went to this meditation thing. And then I remember, and you know what? Like, she came out and she was like, Raman, that was so good. I think you should do it too. And like, with having her like gone through it. And for me, it was a bit easier because I knew someone else that did it. So I was like, okay. And then I did the York counseling as well. And Anisa and I would have like our once a week sessions. And like at the end, we were both just like, this was so helpful.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with Anisa in terms of like, sometimes the issue that you think is the issue is not the issue. Because I think when I went to counseling, I thought I needed to go for one problem in my head when it was stemming from something else. And kind of like, you really do see the results as well from like, I remember like, and I've said this on our other podcast too, like they show you kind of like a survey thing that they make you take like your first session, and then they make you do the same survey on your last one. And then you actually see the difference in the responses and the feelings and all that stuff. So it was really good.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think people should definitely take advantage of their free services that you have available, and kind of just like reach out and talk to somebody, because like I have to agree that you don't need a response all the time. Sometimes you just need to talk it out loud.
Just someone listen to you, vent it out.
Yeah. Do you have some final words, Anisa? I know it's Ramadan. You're fasting right now. Happy Ramadan.
Yes,
and you took out this
Ramadan.
time in the daytime to do this with us.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I think I love the Girl Boss Month. I love everything it represents. And I think, a lot of people don't realize that, you don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a business owner to be a girl boss.
Amen.
You don't even need to have things in control. I don't think, people always see and ask, how do you handle things? I don't have a recipe on how I handle things. I kind of take things day by day. I kind of plan things out. But I think one of the things about being a very busy lawyer, working almost every weekend, working, from 9 to 9 almost every day, sometimes later, not being home, recognizing that sometimes I can't cook dinner, I can't do my laundry, I can't go grocery shopping right now, I can't I can't just always be there for myself. My nails won't always look great. I need to have some off days. It's okay to just stay in bed. I think a big part of that and managing and recognizing yourself from within is being a girl boss, but also knowing when you need to be there, when you need to perform, and switching your mindset into that. Like when I'm at work, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm on the ball. I'm fierce. I'm sharp as much as I can be, right? And part of that is just knowing what my role is. But then when I'm at home, I can be lazy. I can, forget about arguing. I don't care to argue. I'm not at work anymore. So things like that, like I wouldn't even want to really make a decision, but at work, I have to do that. So I think part of that is really just being a girl boss. And I think we all kind of have that in us, and it's kind of just how we portray that to the world. But recognizing and respecting yourself is one of the biggest things that I've learned in everything that I do. You don't have to be an active volunteer. You don't have to spread yourself thin everywhere, because you can't give yourself 100%. You can't give 100% of yourself to what you want. But with fasting, I'm a practicing Muslim, and, I wear a hijab, and a lot of people are very surprised that I'm a lawyer I'm a Muslim divorce lawyer, because, divorce is seen as such taboo in my culture and in my religion as well. And kind of just, giving advice and I love being able to share how easy it is to still be devout and still practice and things like that. So a lot of that, it's a lot of fun. The fasting actually isn't bad at all.
Yeah.
I think Ramadan is just something where we really kind of we need it all. And I think there's so many different ways to worship in this month. And with having such a busy life, a lot of it I do sometimes on my car ride. Sometimes, a little bit, I'll just extend prayer times a little bit. I'll wake up a little earlier, or just being cognizant of my day-to-day activities and things like that, and being a little bit more calm, I think really kind of helps me even after
That's
the month.
amazing.
Yeah.
So so it's been great.
Oh, that's so amazing to hear. And what great, like, how to explain what a girl boss is.
Yeah,
It's
I love
really
that.
playing your role and jumping into like and knowing who you
And
are.
listening to yourself, listening to your body, and listening to your mind for sure, and your inner self.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Anisa, for being on our podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
It was honestly such a pleasure, and we do hope to have you on our podcast again. Maybe
Yes,
when you
please.
when you say you have your life together. But thank you again. And yeah, to everyone out there listening, if you're not following us already, follow us at Level Up with Raman and Alysha.
Yes.
Alrighty, bye everyone.
Bye.